let me know if you can hear me, Chad. All right, good. Yeah, I just had it on mute, just doing other stuff around the house while it's kind of quiet in here before the webinar starts. All right, let me. Your question, Chad. It was about the AI, right? All right. So to show you a couple of things here. Um, One is so the AI that I have displayed that you can see here now, that's just an alert window. It will show you, these numbers here. I have it set up that it is, let's take a look. Options, AI trade size. So right now I'm doing it if I did 100 shares per trade. That's how that's actually calculated. I'm not sure. I thought I actually want it this way. All right, so now I've made that switch here. So now I'm doing it if I was risking $100 per trade, is how this would be calculated here. That's how that works in that. Now, you're looking to try to get into setting up automation, is that correct? All right, so the first thing you'll need to do is get a brokerage plus window open. Let me get mine somewhere in here. Okay. So, do you have one of these windows open yet? Okay. So you see up here where it says Holly AI, you're going to click that tab. And every day you'll have to enable these, okay? And it'll come with whatever her strategies are for that day. So tomorrow's going to obviously look different than today does. So the other thing you can do is filter if you want, just long strategies, short strategies, and then you can enable the re-entry as well here. So you want to pay attention to these different boxes because they're, like everything else, especially once you go live with this, it's all very, very important to be paying attention to what you're checking before that market fires open. So this here, that's your re-entry for long and short. These are just your long and shorts. So if you want to enable re-entries on the long or short strategies, these boxes have to be checked. All right. Then you're going to right click whatever the strategy is. So we're just going to do a breakout strategy for now as an example, and we right click it, edit long strategy instructions, long trading instructions, excuse me. All right. And here is where the master controls are. So this is where you would be able to set AI trade mode, moderate conservative, or best of. And best of simply means that whatever worked for that strategy last time best is what we'll use this time. It won't change an already held position. So if you've entered an AI trade and moderate is what the mode was set for, moderate is what it is. It doesn't change. It'll just affect the next one is how that best of works, okay? Here is going to be your position sizing, so base stop loss $30, $50, whatever that you want to set that stop loss is. And then this is the big one, all right? Whether you're going to go in at market or limit, this is where you have to decide what you're willing to risk. You know, you never know what she's going to trade, and you don't know what the spreads are going to be on that. So if she jumps in something as a 50-cent spread, going in at market is not exactly a wise idea, just in my opinion, but everybody has a different risk parameter. So that's where you have to decide, you know, am I going market? Am I going limit? Most people go limit. If you're going limit, then what's your limit offset? How much delta, how much alpha are you willing to give up? So, here I have it set for 5 cents. So, that's why it becomes that whole game of, where people think I can just trade the AI automatically. It just doesn't work that way where it's press play and walk away. Every strategy comes with who knows what trade that day, and what those spreads are going to be, what someone's willing to give up, how long they're willing to sit and wait to get filled. And that's where these functions come in, and knowing markets, knowing trading comes in. That's what you will have to decide on your own. But let me know if any of that wasn't clear, if you have any questions so far on what I've just gone over. Okay, so that under the tools options, that's just for the alert window. That has no bearing on what you do in the auto trading whatsoever. Everything as far as the auto trading is in that brokerage plus window. The one that's in the options under tools is just for someone to play at home, paper traded, or however you want to call it, just to track based on how you might trade as a risk parameter if you were trading along with Holly. But that's just for show. The brokerage plus window is both for the simulated and for the live trading. You have to set every single strategy individually each morning. So there's trader work to be done in it. It's not a crystal ball. It doesn't read minds or anything like that. There's still market knowledge and software knowledge, trading knowledge to be put in each day, and there has to someone has to be there to set it in the morning to go. Now you can set it at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning, because she'll have her strategies all out by then. The other thing I'll say really quick before I go further on this is make sure you shut down trade ideas every night before midnight and then restart it again, because the server needs to reset. If you leave trade ideas on all night, the server cannot reset, and Holly won't come in with the correct strategies. She'll be hung up in between yesterday and today, was what will happen. So just make sure that you're shutting it down before the start of each new day. But let's say you leave for work at 8 o'clock in the morning. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, when you're having your breakfast or whatever you're doing, whatever your routine is, you can go into that AI tab, set up all the parameters on each one of the strategies, and you don't have to enable all the strategies. If you don't trade short, don't enable any of the short strategies. If you only like to trade, let's say you've been following the breakout strategy or little big guy or mighty mouse, whatever they are, you can enable the ones that you've been following that you like the best. Essentially, that's how that can work. And then you set it, make sure everything's live. Also, make sure that you're in your interactive brokers trader workstation. You're logged into that. You have live data for all that, and then you can set it up and walk out the door from there. If you feel that comfortable and confident, my 2 cents, and the same thing that I don't know if you've ever been in the trading room with Barry. I would never ever do that. It's just I just don't have that kind of risk tolerance. But that's my personal preference. I know there are people that successfully auto trade Holly. What they do to set it up is proprietary to themselves, but that's how that goes. Holly talk and text. Are you talking about like when she alerts? You want to hear her, talk to you? Yes, once you set you because every morning she comes with a different set of strategies. So what we see here right now today, she might not come with any one of those strategies. She's got, I don't know, 50 strategies or more. So you might not see those strategies again for a week. And then I see you said something about talk and talk to text. So if you've got if that's what you're saying is on the alert window when she alerts something, that's what you want to hear her speaking to you.
Welcome to the webinar. Please stand by. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Harley, I'm sorry, I don't follow along with the Harley. The last comment there for Harley. Oh, okay. So I mean, I hope that
The
gets you
webinar will begin
on the way,
shortly. Please remain on the line.
with what you're looking to do as far as auto trading. And then have you watched our video on how the other parts of setting up auto trading as far as linking with Trader Workstation, live data, all that stuff?
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Yeah, IB charges for data
The
for
webinar will begin shortly.
whatever
Please
reason,
remain on the line.
which I know is extremely annoying. Um, so you're gonna have to contact them and have them walk you through for live data for U.S. equities. For the all the major exchanges. Just for equities, you don't need options. You don't need level two. You don't need any of that stuff. I can't remember what the charge is. Maybe it's like $10 a month or something. But if you trade enough, they rebate some of it or something like that. But the Brokerage Plus interface works off of that data. So without that data, nothing in Brokerage Plus will work. Uh, you know, Hopefully in the next, I don't know, month or two. I shouldn't give any kind of time frame. We are working on getting both E Trade and TD to production, but there's bugs to be worked out still. So what that time frame is, I really don't know. They're both. I'm beta testing one of them now, so. Yeah, they don't just give you live data, so you'll have to reach out to them. And one of the ways to know if you have live data or not is when you're in Trader Workstation, open a time and sales window, and if that's delayed, you have delayed data.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
I know looks like a few more people are in here. If anybody has some questions they'd like to throw at me before Jamie and Steve get started with the webinar, let me know.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Yeah, my pleasure. I know some of these things are much easier to demonstrate, and we do have in the works. Maybe after the New Year's, I'm going to start to do webinars like this. Probably after Barry closes the room to go over a little more Brokerage Plus and how it all works. Because like any software, taking it out of the box and getting it running, it takes some trial and error. So when you can have things demonstrated, makes it much easier.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
And again, I see there's some people in here, so you must have some curiosity if you showed up. If you guys got questions, type them in the chat panel there, and I'm happy to answer anything you guys got. Still got about 5 minutes or so, just under 5 minutes before Jamie gets this whole thing going and takes over my screen. And I'll be here in the chat panel, back and forth in the chat panel. Some other support that I have going on, but any questions throughout the webinar, I'm happy to answer. Yeah. Also, I don't know if you know this or not, Chad, but we do at 12 Eastern every day. We have this in the YouTube channel, in our YouTube channel, a Q&A just like this. Um, Barry has the YouTube channel the whole day, aside from his room where he can also demonstrate a lot of stuff. He doesn't do a lot of Brokerage Plus stuff, but at 12 he passes it to one of us, and it's a free for all from 12 to 1. I'll actually be doing it from 12 to probably 1:20 on Wednesday if you're around and available. So when I give times, I always give Eastern since I'm in New York.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Oh man, if I can make a humble brag, I took some BCRX home over the weekend and sold a little this morning pre-market, almost at the high of the pre-market, and we're about to get there again. It looks like.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Now I just hope they don't do a financing overnight. Bios love to do that crap.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
So, and this is the web address for this for all things live YouTube as far as Trade Idea is concerned. So if you want to bookmark this address, and then you'll have it, and that's that. You can refer to it. Barry starts streaming the room at 9:05. I think if you're trying to be in Barry's room, it's better to be directly in the room than the YouTube channel. There's a lot more going on there. Plus, there's a lot of traders with a lot of knowledge that are really great. It's a great room. There's no nonsense in that room whatsoever. They don't put up with any pump and dump stuff or they're really professional in that room. I'll say that they're really professional. But the YouTube channel, like I said, from 12 noon Eastern till roughly 1 o'clock or so, one of us is here, doing a free for all, demonstrating whatever the crowd has. And all right, well, we're gonna be getting ready to kick this off here momentarily, so I'm going to move things around and get you guys all set up to be listening through the desktop here. And I'm going to cut my mic. All right, guys.
The
They're getting
webinar will
ready to get
begin
started, it looks
shortly.
like.
Please remain on the
All right, so like
line.
I said, I'm here in the chat. I'll pop in that I'm saying, that I'm here in the chat once in a while. If anybody has questions, just hit me up, let me know.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will be. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. This is Jamie Hodge. I'll be the host today, along with Steve Gomez. What's going on over there, Steve?
Hello there, Jamie. It appears it's just the pair of us today, a two-man booth.
Yeah, we were waiting. I think somewhere along the line, our usual MC, Scott, is having some technical issues. So we're just going to forego all the typical poll questions and all that good stuff that we typically go through. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. So welcome to the first office hours of December 7th. Here we go. Got a nice little crowd in here. So before I get going here, I just saw some questions piling through here. One regarding connecting the AI channels and the automated trading strategies and all that good stuff. So to that person asking those questions, I will say this. Our program today is kind of pre-programmed, in other words, with the content. But tomorrow, I would invite you to hop into the live support session, and that's going to take place from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. I've got a slide here, and I'll show you how to get there in just a moment. That's a great place to get eyes on, get your questions answered in real time, and we can definitely help you out with that in a live environment. Okay, so welcome everybody. We appreciate you guys taking the time to come hear what we have to say each and every webinar that we do. We've got a nice little agenda here to go over. got the Holly recap. Got the Holly recap, which we'll hop into in just a moment. Kind of a boring day with the exception of one signal that was just killer today, and we'll get into that shortly. Also got some cool stuff over here on the right side. We're going to revisit the marble block strategy that I created and handed out a couple of weeks ago. We're going to convert that thing into a top list. Pretty interesting little list emerges once you do that. And we've got a different topic to talk about today. We're going to talk about the SPACs, the SPACs, special purpose acquisition corporations, and well, what in the hell is that? And what do we expect out of those things? And we've even got a new channel for SPACs. So a lot of interesting stuff, kind of off the beaten path here. But before we get into the juicy, just want to take a moment here to go over the disclaimer. We're all big boys and girls here, and just want to make everybody aware of the fact that everything that we show you guys in these webinars or that we talk about or bring to you on a weekly basis is for educational purposes only. So what does that mean? That means if you need investment advice, what to buy, when to sell it, all that good stuff, how to plan for retirement, please seek out a registered investment advisor or someone like a Series 7 licensed stockbroker that can legally dispense, buy and sell information to you. Once again, everything we share with you guys for educational purposes only. Okay. Also, a couple of more slides to get through here since we do have quite a few new people in the room, I'm sure, since we just concluded the test drive not too long ago. Always like to take a little bit of time at the top of the hour here to let everybody know about the community that we've built around the technology that is TI. All kind of starts over here in the left-hand corner, the trading room hosted by Barry Anderson. Barry's going to open the room up about 30 minutes before each and every market open. Does a fantastic job of moderating a large trading room, which is free of charge, by the way, and also likes to showcase the way that he uses the technology and his trading style. So whether you're a beginner, in between, or a seasoned pro, you'll find value in the trading room. Of course, on the Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern webinars, you get myself and Steve. Steve takes the steering wheel for the Trade of the Week, which will be on Tuesdays tomorrow. Dan Merkin, our founder and chief executive officer, SPAC extraordinaire, and Brad Williams, our chief technical officer, are going to host the Q&A on Wednesdays, typically giving you a peek at new tech coming down the pipeline from the developers. And then Andy's going to round out the 5 p.m. Eastern slots with the trading studio, and I'll ride shotgun with him. Now, here's the thing I was referring to earlier, the daily support session beginning at 12 p.m. and going until 1 p.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday. In the next slide here, I'll show you how to get there. Basically, you just want to go to trade-ideas.com/live, like you see down there in the bottom left-hand corner. That's a static address, so you can bookmark that address and just click into it every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern and participate in the live support session every Monday through Friday. In addition, we've got a great educational series of videos. So if you're a relatively new user, you can really benefit by going to our YouTube channel and checking out the TI University 4-part series, everything from beginner to advanced, 101, 201, 301, and 401. Help you get over that learning curve a lot quicker than not watching these videos. Subscriber growth. Boy, we just keep on going. 2016, the first year we introduced the AI, and, boom, 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 expect the trend to continue. In addition to that, all of our Brokerage Plus generated orders. The chart you're seeing right here, strictly looking at interactive brokers only, since that is currently the only broker-dealer that you can connect Brokerage Plus to. But got some really positive news from the developers in some meetings last week. I posed the question, which one's going to come out first? Is it E-Trade or is it Ameritrade? And I was pleasantly surprised to hear that they're probably both going to be coming out at the same time. So that's very exciting. I'm going to be adding 2 $0 broker dealers. You would think that before too long, IB better go $0 commission as well, or they're gonna have some people leaving. So it's going to be very exciting to see how this graph proceeds over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months to a year, because we'll have E-Trade and Ameritrade folded in there too. Orange bars are demo orders. Blue bars are actually live orders. And every month, some of the orange converts to blue. So some exciting times, whether you're an E-Trader or an Ameritrader, with the availability of Brokerage Plus coming up pretty soon. All right, so without further ado, let me just scroll back up here to my itinerary and we'll get going here. And Steve, if you're ready to take it, I'll kick it over to you and you can talk about the overall markets and all that good stuff. If you're ready, I'll do that now.
Yes, sounds good. Can you hear me?
I can.
Good. All right. I was just typing away over there. Who was that to? Krish. Yeah, if you want more detailed information on a certain filter, or if the index is not good enough, you can email info@trade-ideas.com. I also dropped a note there that says on our channel bar on the left-hand side, there's one called the Traderz Vault. And there's a list of, or there's a whole palette of scans and alerts that you can just go in and right-click and save to your own cloud and then bring up onto your own layout. But if you want more information on that, just go to info@trade-ideas.com. A support ticket will be created and somebody will get more detailed reply to you. So in the meantime, I'm going to talk about the market here. Let me grab my pen. So here's where we started the year, and here's where we're kind of close to taking out the year. In the meantime, we've had this incredible range, and for those of you who were here last week, I just said the market kind of felt a little tired, based on a couple things. Zooming in here, anytime we do get this far fanned out and spread above the moving averages, it always just seems like there were just one big red candle day away with some big volume on top of it, like this day or this day. This is probably the best example here. A big volume day just wipes out, a good week and a half or so right on the uptrend, and then the market just finds its sea legs and marches higher. We're definitely in a low volume slant here as we just kind of move higher and spread out. And I'm laughing with Andy today, as a matter of fact. Green bar, doji, candle perfect. Green bar, doji, candle perfect. I don't know, tomorrow we're going to get another green bar based on this code I'm breaking here. This code breaking stuff. Candles aside, very low volume, no bear case to be made. I mean, there's really nothing technically threatening this market, but I'm going to expand on what I did last week. We're going to grab the RSI here and try and look at the underpinnings of this move and see if there's really anything in there that we can kind of bring home. And, still not much. There was a bit more divergence in there last week. What I was talking about was last week we had this kind of action going on, but we're just kind of back to flat here as the market just kind of grinds higher on low volume. I'm going to call it complacency. It's just kind of a simple complacent market. I'm just kind of waiting for that one just red candle that wipes out a week and a half and resets everything. Until then, it's kind of a game of musical chairs. I don't really know any other way to put it. When we look at the NASDAQ, via the Qs. Not really seeing divergence over there either. Hang on a second. And shoot, all-time highs again here in the last few days over there in the NASDAQ land, albeit not with as much power and movement behind it as we did over here the first time. And then again, the big correction. So, is the music going to run out and we're going to play the musical chairs game again? We'll see. I don't have a whole lot of conviction. In other words, the foot's not on the gas. Maybe 50% invested and 50% in cash, just waiting to kind of see what happens. Let's turn off this RSI before it bothers me too much. And then there's one more thing I want to show before I hand it back to Jamie that kind of makes the case of why, again, I'm just a little concerned and I've got company. Let's put it that way. I've got company. So in the VIX, there's an ETF for that, which VIX is an index of put buying in the S&P, which we just looked at, the S&P. And how many people were buying protection? When you buy protection, you're feeling kind of like I am. Okay, well, I'm long, but I'm kind of nervous. Maybe I can buy some insurance. So buying puts on the S&P 500 is measured in the VIX, or some people call it the fear index. Well, something I noticed today in the fear index that you can actually hang your hat on technically is this. Last week in my webinar, on the Tuesday webinar, I talked about the 130 moving average, which is a fancy way of saying the 5-day moving average. And a lot of times things in motion will follow the 5-day moving average. It's a very solid moving average. But we can transpose that, invert that, whatever, transpose is probably the better word, into a 15-minute time frame. And to do that, we cut up the moving average into 130 parts. And so I call it the 130 line. Look at how the VIX, if you will, has been around, how it's reacted, behaved, responded around the 50. Well, got ahead that time when we were looking at that big sell-off back in the past, but since then, it has respected that line and cannot get above that line. It tries intraday, but just really can't ever until today. We had a full day and it closed above that moving average, something it has not done in a while. Not only that, the slope of that moving average is starting to flatten out. This is very interesting technically, so I'm going to just continue to kind of hang my hat on my thesis that something might be happening around the corner. I don't know when or if, but I'm not going to stick around and be fully leveraged to find out, because there's nothing worse than waking up one day, market's already gapping down on the open, the bell rings, and you can't get out of your stocks fast enough, and you're lucky as well as if your E-Trade or TD Ameritrade count isn't freezing up on you. Freezing up is what my account was, what my
Oh, you mean like Interactive
right
Brokers this morning?
Yeah, they had an issue too. So I don't want to be involved in something like that, but this little zoomed in view here again, just kind of, taking a nap above the 130 line, the 5-day moving average, looking at the 15-minute candles. Hasn't done that in a while. And I think a lot of people are like me, they're buying insurance today, just trying to wonder what the hell's coming up around the corner because something doesn't smell right. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that. That's all I really got.
Good stuff, Steve. I was not aware of what you just showed regarding that moving average on the VIX, and now it's a little bit more clear to me as well. So thank you.
Yeah, it's the one thing I've added. Coming into today, I've always boasted about only using one moving average, which is the simple 10 on my 15-minute charts, and never had anything else going on. Tried to keep it simple, but what's been happening lately is I've been noticing a lot of correlations. And you weren't in my webinar last Tuesday. That was my content last Tuesday, was showing a lot of correlations. So now I am using this 130 line in addition to my 10 period. So my 10 period, my intraday momentum, but my 130 is kind of the backstop, a little bit of a bigger picture, almost like a 50 period on a daily chart. Is it healthy or not? Okay.
Good stuff, sir. Let me go ahead and grab the mic back here. Okay. Should be back on my screen now.
Yep. Yes.
All right. So, in keeping with tradition, first we're going to look at the CC readings that I looked at this morning, that I look at every 15 minutes after the open to kind of get a little gauge of, what to expect as far as potential market direction or just general market activity. If there's any, if there are new people in here wondering, well, what in the world is he going to talk about? What's this compare count window? Here's the compare count window that I look at, and you can easily spawn a new compare count window just by going to the toolbar, selecting new compare count window. But these little guys are pretty simple. They just let us keep count of basically opposite events. This one's looking at stocks hitting highs and lows with a little bit of filtering, only looking at stocks capitalized above $4 billion. So what I do is I check out the readings after the first 15 minutes. And a lot of the times, no guarantee, but it can give me an idea of what direction we might be headed. So these are the readings today, 55% bullish. Now, typically, I don't really pay a whole lot of credence unless we get above a 55% level, either to the bearish or the bullish side. So this was right on the cusp. So seeing this today after the first 15 minutes, I just kind of threw my hands up and went, well, anything's possible today. We could go up, we could go down, but just be prepared for, whatever. Now, if we take a look at the SPY and look at the first 15-minute candle here we go. Just kind of jumped up a little bit, flat line before capitulating down, popping new lows, and then trying to grab a little bit back, but just kind of getting a little bit wicky there going into the close. So compare counts kind of played out just like I thought. Not going to have extreme movement one way or the other, and that's clearly what we had today. No big volume on the tracking ETFs as far as the SPY, the Qs, and the Dow, IWM, all falling, well below 1 after the close of the day. Got a little bit crazier in the bond market, but the Neapolitan finish here, when you see this type of thing, that just gives you a pretty good idea that it's kind of a whipsaw city in the market, and that's what we did have in the overall markets. So not a lot of help there on the compare counts today. So now let's go ahead and segue into Holly. Holly produced 12 signals today, and today is the classic example of one trade making the day. And I think looking at all the trades here on the AI blotter, it's easy to figure out which one it was. And it just so happened to be the very first trade out of the gates. As we can see here, let me get the 15-minute chart up here. GMDA, Gameta Cell Limited. Check out the buy price right here, 771. Let me get my pen active. So check out Holly's entry time in conservative mode and exit time. All right, this is classic. It's using the trade slightly less than 5 minutes. All right, you can barely see the risk or the time spent in the trade in conservative risk. We're probably gonna have to stretch this out to 5-minute candles to get a little visual on that shaded area. Yeah, and you can barely see it. It's a little square right there around those opening 5-10. Let's see, actually in the first 5 minutes, but that's just really hard to see because she spent such a small amount of time in the trade. Now, the reason being, target hit. Okay, this thing had a target hit that was quickly achieved. All right. Not a very big target though. Entry price of 771, and the profit target was 29.33 cents above the entry price. So that was a pretty tight profit target. Needless to say, it hit it. And then we cycled back down here, kind of hemmed and hawed around the entry line before a secondary pattern plays out. So it's all fine and good. We actually had 2 profit targets hit today. Usually there's about 1 if there are any, but today we did have 2. It just seems like this was a little tight for a profit target. So having said that, a lot of things I like about this pattern. Number 1, not a bad entry, in the money pretty quick, but as stocks typically do, pull back to the entry line, have to sit a little bit of a wiggle. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to 15 minutes so we can pay attention to the fast line as well and the markups that I put on. So check it out. After the entry candle, what do we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had about an hour of sideways movement, getting close to the stop, but not hitting the stop. That's a good thing. And then what did we have? Once this candle right here, once we're into this candle right here, we can easily see the range that's been established in the auxiliary pattern that does have the potential to play out. In the next candle, it did play out. Stock goes up here, pecks above that previous high, and we have an opening range break playing out on top of the statistically weighted signal that we got from Holly in the first 5 minutes. So in my opinion, as this pattern is starting to form but hasn't completed yet, we have the potential for a second gold star. The first gold star is Holly, bringing us the play with statistical probability. And what was that statistical probability? Well, if I drag my strategies panel over here, it was breakout long. So we find breakout long and right here at the top. So coming into the day, we had 59.5% chance of success to start the show here. Now we've got the secondary pattern playing out. That's gold star number 2. And what's gold star number 3, ladies and gentlemen? That is, how's the volume? How was the volume all day? How did it finish? Well, as we can see here, finishing at a little over 40 on the relative volume side, you can bet your bottom dollar that volume was there all day long. These smaller time frames were just kicking the whole day as well. And this little guy usually only kicks out about 256,000 shares on that 3-month average. So some very good stacking going on here as far as positive attributes on a trade. Holly, secondary pattern, and raging volume. Once we get above that level there, we push up to the next level. And so this would have been a great ad opportunity. It's one of the topics that we like to talk about when we're talking about AI signals. How do we pull out some of this moderate and conservative spread? And were there any good add-on candidates there? Well, as we can see here, getting back on point here, conservative target hit. And by the way, these numbers that you're viewing here are all based around risking $100 per trade, whereas the numbers that you're going to see over here are assuming 100 shares per trade, okay? So the interesting thing about today is usually when we see really large numbers over here, it's because the system is assuming 100 shares per trade, where it's a little bit, well, it is the opposite today. Because the risk was so small in this one, we're able to get 460 shares based on a $100 stop loss and enjoy this upswing here. So into the close on that 460 shares, we're up almost $1,500 there. So this is one of the larger spreads that I've seen in quite a while, a little over 7x difference between conservative and moderate profit here. So early on, when we see Holly exiting, you know, for a number of different reasons. Well, we've only been in the trade 5 minutes. If you were auto, maybe you got hit on a profit target too, or, you know, most people are trading manually with Holly. So would have been an easy call just to go, you know what, trade's only 5 minutes old. Let's see what happens. And once you start to see this play out, it wasn't that hard to sit in it, especially after we got pretty close to the stop of 749 with the low of that candle. Let's see. Don't know why my metrics are disappearing on me there, but the low of that candle was 756. So we did come close, but that's how some of the best trades go. Come within a few pennies of getting stopped out, kick that secondary pattern into gear for a nice ad opportunity. And then we got consolidation during this period right here for another nice ad opportunity on this one, a second ad opportunity as this pattern plays out again. So just a A-plus trade on many fronts, from the fact that Holly brought it to us with statistical probability, secondary pattern plays out, nice ad opportunity, second ad opportunity, all with big volume. So definitely GMDA, the shining star of Holly. Today, everything else is just kind of mediocre compared to this one. But hey, look at this. Look at the moderate profit percentage, 41%. It's been a while since I saw anything like that. Everything else was just kind of mediocre at best. Not a whole lot to talk about other than the shining star, which accounted for most of the profits today. As far as trade arounds go, those are typically stocks that we like to look at that did get stopped out, but the stop area acted as a area of support. Not a whole lot of that going on today. As we can see here in OVS, took all day just to get stopped out on that stop hit. Pfizer, short, stop hit and stayed well above it. And this little guy right here looked like it might hold up for a while, but no dice there. So no good examples of any stocks that went to that stop area, kind of messed around with a little bit, wick through it, and then turned and burned the direction that we hoped it would go. So sometimes we have some good trade arounds to look at, but today the cupboard was bare as far as trade arounds go. It was really just GMDA as far as Holly goes. If we remove that trade, it just would have been a kind of a mediocre losing day. All right. So unless there are any specific questions about the AI, we're just going to progress right along to the rest of the agenda today. Let me do a little quick time check. All right, we're sitting pretty. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to revisit the marble block. Well, we're not going to revisit the actual strategy, but what I've done is I've converted that big strategy with lots and lots of trades to a top list, kind of stealing one of Andy's ideas, but it's a very good universal idea to try from time to time when you have some alert windows, whether they be very active or not so active, converting those to a top list. And the interesting thing is once we convert that big strategy that has lots and lots of trades over a 40-day period, the top list remains pretty small and manageable. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull over the original marble. I got marbles in my mouth. The original marble block strategy here, which was handed out a few webinars back to give everybody a nice big range of trades to try to improve upon. And hopefully we can get through this back test here without the back tester stalling out on us. We had a few issues today, but I think we got that fixed. Just to give you an idea of how many trades are coming through this thing. Some of you already know, but just in case someone has not had exposure to this yet, just want to let the calculations complete here. Where's the Jeopardy music when you need it? And we're almost there. Here we go. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how many trades are coming through this thing in a 40-day period, almost 3,000 trades, okay? And this is still a great strategy to additionally throw some optimization on there, and I'll even drop this in the chat before we're done, just in case anybody out there that doesn't have it wants to give it a go. But just kind of want to show you how many trades are coming through here. So how did I convert this into a top list? Pretty simple. What we do is we right click and we come down here to collaborate. One of the older features in Trade Ideas. This is how we used to share all the windows, but with the advent of the cloud, that's the latest and greatest. But if we want to transfer all of these settings into a top list, this is what we do. And we copy that thing. We spawn a new top list, or you can duplicate an existing one. Same thing. And then we right click and we collaborate and we paste. And then when we look in here, we can see all of those filter settings have been transferred in. There is no alert because we don't use alerts in a top list. Now keep in mind it transferred in all my columns and we don't really have a need for those. So I'm just going to pull the finished version over here. And this is what we're left with, okay? Just showing everybody symbol, price, how many shares have traded today, and what's relative volume. Now, the strategy in and of itself required relative volume of 2.0, so that's why you're not seeing anything below 2, but that's a good thing. And then it's just about, okay, not a big list when you take into consideration how many trades were coming through that, and the reason being is this is a pretty specific and tight filter set here, all right? Actually, I'm a little surprised that there are even this many stocks on here, but it was pretty much like this throughout the day. You might have one coming and going, but this just creates a really good short list for you to peruse through, take a look at the daily, and do what we're about to do, which is just set a couple of price alerts. We know that we have the attribute of volume behind us. We know that the strategy in and of itself with this filter set is somewhat productive. So the process is simple. And this kind of segues into, I was talking about this last week, actually it was in the last support session last Thursday, where a user was saying, hey, do you know how to create this type of scan? And I was making the comments, a lot of the time, people try to get too specifics. Just create something with good characteristics that you want your trades to have as far as filters go. And then check out the charts and see if there's any timing coming into play there. So if we just start scanning through the list here, RC, Okay, right off the bat here, RC on the daily. What sticks out right here? All right, we had a nice down day and we wicked down below the 50 period here, and we had a nice close. So that might be interesting to some people. Some people like the 200 day, the 50 day, the 20 day, the 10 day. But you know what? If all we had to do was pick one moving average and play it every time and it worked, well, that'd be too easy, right? It'd be too nice. It's too much of a fantasy. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes stocks bounce around the 50, the 200, the 10. It just doesn't matter. Okay. A lot of times it's, a certain amount of randomness in there. But clearly, this stock reacted well around the 50 period here. So you might think to yourself, okay, well, I'm going to put this one on the watch list. Then if I do decide to take a position in it, the bottom of that candle will be my stop, 1177, right? Now, what would be a good buy trigger? Maybe if this thing hits the high from the prior day, we could come in here and set an alert. And if it triggers, then we know what our stop loss is. Not the best example here. Another one, when we could scan through this whole list, but I'm just kind of picking out the ones that look good to me. This one doesn't look too shabby at all. XP, all right? Nice little grind up over a period of days. Sellers take control, jam it back down here. Bottoming out on Friday with a nice little doji candle, and we got a nice little doji candle here again. So this might not be a bad swing trade candidate. If we set a high right about 38.98, we could just call it $40. And we know what our stop loss is here. Be the bottom of this candle right here, which would be 37.36 as a stop loss. Let's see here. Fold, a different type of chart pattern altogether, but interesting nonetheless. If we kind of compress the chart here, see if we are looking at all-time highs here. Let me just look at the weekly real quick. Yeah, folds up there. Okay, here's the weekly. Not looking too bad either, kind of flattening out up here. But if we go back to the daily, then we could easily say, okay, it's just grinding along sideways. It did poke its head out briefly today. Couldn't really get a good close above, but definitely that 10 period seems to be in control. Then we got the 20 right below it. Notice what the candles prior couple of days, Thursday and Friday, went down there and tested that 20, popped it right back up. Now it's above the 20. So this one might be a good one to keep your eyes on as well for a move above today's high. Could come tomorrow, could come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but definitely something that I'm going to keep my eyes on moving forward. And we could just say, if this was 23.99, let's go ahead and mark that thing up at 40. And that's the wrong button, Jamie. Price alert. 24. All right. And our stop loss, let's see, get her away from me box. Depending on your risk tolerance, it could be below the 10 period or it could be down here below the 20 period. That's a personal preference. Let's see, XP, fold, RC. I think there were a couple popping on here towards the close. And as I recall, a lot of them just didn't look very advantageous, well above the moving averages. But the takeaway here is it's going to produce a very small list on a daily basis that you can quickly peruse. And whether you get one good price alert, two good price alerts, hey, all it takes is one. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just go ahead and drop this one in to the chat area. And let me throw a little title on there. Marble block top list. So pretty short and sweet with this. Just going to create a rather manageable list. Just scroll through these at your leisure. Anything that looks good on the daily, go ahead and set that price alert for it. So I just want to make sure I had time for this last topic here. Some of you out there might know what a SPAC is, SPAC. It's all the rage as of late. If you haven't heard about it, well, now you're going to hear about it. Basically, it's a special purpose acquisition corporation. And as the little definition down here notates, typically referred to as a blank check company. Another alternative to traditional IPOs. These deals, technically known as special purpose acquisition companies or
Say special
SPACs.
purpose?
What's that?
Special purpose? From the jerk?
Yeah, I finally found out my special purpose. And if you're old enough, you'll get that reference. Steve and I grew up in a very special time where those movies were on TV. They're kind of ingrained in our heads. But yes, special purpose acquisition companies. So what they do is they target a company, they fund the shell company, and then they go out there and acquire a company. And it's kind of like a pseudo IPO, but it's not really an IPO, right? So it seems to be all the rage, and some of these things have been making some just crazy moves. So we created a channel for it, and you can see it right over here called the Blank Check channel. I'm not going to go over there just yet, but I am going to show you one of the main windows that I saved to my cloud. So, and we'll cruise over there in just a minute. But this is it right here. This is one of the main top lists from the Blank Check channel, Blank Check Acquisition Company. If I right click and hit configure here, if I go to symbol list, you're going to notice this one is pointed to a specific list where it's only acquisition companies. Okay. And then I have a correlation to point out here. Some of you might remember the Smoke and Fire top list that I handed out. I don't know if it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, but this is a very simple top list, and it's only looking at things with relative volume. I'll kind of flip it around depending on how active the day is. 10, 15, relative volume. That's pretty much the gist of it. Got low price stocks in here as well. Of course, you can bump this up 15, 20. It's a personal preference. But what I started noticing in my Smoke and Fire list, as soon as I started watching, I'm like, all these plus signs, what are these things? Well, what I've, come to realize over the course of the past 10 days is these are all of the warrants. Not all of them are going to be SPAC company warrants, but most of them are. Okay. The warrants, this kind of brings me back a couple of weeks ago. Dan, our CEO, who's an active trader, was talking about all these warrants that he's seeing trading now. And we were reminiscing about the SOS days when we started in the early 90s, and we just would sit there all day and trade Intel warrants. There was INTC, and then there was INTCW, and the warrants were in the money, so they moved with the common. They were just cheaper, right? So you could get a lot more leverage. But warrants, man, I haven't heard of anybody trading warrants in a very long time, but obviously they are back, and it seems that most of these SPACs have warrants trading with them. I was kind of playing around with this one today, BFT Plus. Well, just remove the plus sign for the common. You go to BFT, boom, there's the common. Nice big gap up, little top out, and then it gave some back today. But check out the volume levels these things are producing. BFT was 113 on the relative scale. BFT Plus or BFT warrants, 80. Okay, finished the day trading 80, and these 5 and 1 minute volume metrics were in the thousands all day. So there's definitely a lot of volume pumping through these guys. So what I'm going to do before we're done here, I'm going to drop the Blank Check Acquisition Company top list in the chat along with the Smoke and Fire, because I think these are this is a good companion window if you're going to be watching these SPAC companies. So you might also be thinking, well, what can we expect out of these SPAC companies? Are they just going to be good trading vehicles? Which, yeah, that's the idea. Trade them just like you would anything else. It's not like you want to go jumping into these things willy-nilly. You have to address them just like any other trade and exercise good risk management, so forth and so on. Yeah, Sam, I've only dropped one in there so far, but I'll drop these in there here in a little bit. So I'll make sure that they show up and you have them. So what's a good example of one that's done something crazy here lately? Because originally what they'll have is one symbol. Okay, check this one out, GMHI. Matter of fact, our AI has been kind of active in this one over the past, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About a week ago, it called a buy on GMHI. And just last week, I remember seeing the sell signal come out on a short on GMHI. But notice the day here. This is December 2nd. And here we are on December 7th. Where are the other candles? Because they did their acquisition and they converted their symbol. Okay. And I must give Dan credit for this because he was long this one. I can't remember the price, but he was well in the money on it. And then guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Their acquisition thing went through. They converted their symbol to laser. And look what laser has done since it's only been around for 3 days. And it's went from what it opened at, went to 23.75, took a little excursion down to 19, and now it's at 43.20. All right. So let's back up and look one more time. GMHI. Plenty of time to be in this one. 12, 14, 16, 18. Convert to laser. So even if you bought the top there and you're in at 18, now you're enjoying a price of 43 and change. Okay. So that's what happened with this one. How many times is this going to happen, play out in the future? Who knows? And, you know, that's one thing I would say. You have to trade these things just like any other trade. You have to allocate your risk appropriately. And if you're going to be holding these things overnight, it's just like any other overnight hold. You're going to be exposed to the overnight gap up or gap down. So once again, use your same risk management tools, just kind of explaining the inner workings of what a SPAC is and what you might expect. There's a little bonus activity that might happen because typically when you're in a stock, you don't expect it to shut down and generate a new symbol, but that is always a possibility when you're dealing with these SPACs. That is correct, Randy. Laser is EV related.
And you have to do air quotes when you say laser.
Yes, sharks with lasers. Okay. Let's see here. What am I forgetting to talk about? Okay, special purpose, the warrants, the companion window with the smoke and fire, because for some reason, it seems like these warrants, you know, and that can be a little tell, all right? All of these warrants are going to have a certain strike price, and when we pull them up, let's see, I think if I stretch my single stock window out, yep. So for example, BFT. All right, the warrants, each warrant exercisable for 1 share of Class A at an exercise price of $11.50. So, you know, kind of similar to options. If the warrant is in the money, then you're probably going to get good movement. I don't know if it's penny for penny or dollar for dollar if it's in the money, but, you know, if we look at BFT here, well, it's still above 11.50. So when BFT moves, you should get similar movement in the warrant. It's not till BFT went below that strike price for the warrant that you would start to see maybe a little bit of a decoupling in price action. So just keep that in mind as you move forward as well. If they're in the money, then a lot of the times you're going to get that dollar for dollar price move there. And when you're looking at the smoke and fire, I found it best just to sort by volume today, because who cares if the relative volume is through the stratosphere if only 55,000 shares have traded and it looks like this, right? But it's better to leave them on there and this, you know, instead of trying to weed them all out, and just look at the volume today and see if the volume levels are healthy enough. If the volume levels are healthy enough, typically it's going to be liquid and the spreads are going to be relatively small as well. So whether you trade the common or choose to get more leverage with the warrants just open up kind of a new avenue to increase your leverage. Of course, with increased leverage comes a little bit more risk as well. So having said that, let me go ahead and drop these in the window, and then we're going to cruise on over to the blank check channel, see what else is in there besides this specific top list. All right, Control V. Let's call this the SPAC top list. And then the companion window, which wasn't designed to show you SPAC warrants, but that's what it's doing. So we're going to run with that. And by the way, stocks are going to show up on smoke and fire as well, but it just seems to be a great way to track these warrants as well. So we're not going to fight it. Smoke and fire. Okay. So you should have 3 windows in the chat window now. The smoke and fire top list, the marble block top list, the SPAC top list, and the smoke and fire. So 3 different top lists. So now let's just take a peek over here at the new SPAC channel. So obviously this is the window that I just handed out. And then we're going to have a multi-strategy window as well. Looks like the only 2, idea generation windows. You got the top list, we got the multi-strat window, and a couple of charts in your single stock window. So let's take a peek at the strategies that might be in here. Wowzer, that's a lot of strategies. Probably what has happened here is took one of our more popular multi-strat windows with all these strategies in it and simply pointed it to the list of SPACs. Let's take a look here and configure and confirm through configure. Yep, blank check. So basically, you can pick and choose which strategies you want to activate here. They're all checked right now, so this window is going to be pretty darn busy. But if you scan through the strategies and you see, hey, pre-market, post-market, no need. Everybody's going to have a little bit different of a taste here. But between all of these strategies, not even going to bother to count them up, there's probably going to be one in here that's, compatible with your trading style. And they're all going to be pointed to that specific list of only acquisition companies there. So that's about all I got for SPACs. And, just keep in mind, when you see the plus symbol, as you're going to be seeing in the top list, and I would guess some are going to be coming through here, that's the warrant. Just remove the plus sign, type in the symbol, IPV, it'll give you the common. And that's the way we're going to do it with the SPACs.
Do you see Randy's question?
Let me check. Does the blank check top window include the SPACs that haven't acquired a target yet? I would say that is going to be up for user interpretation, right? That's kind of that's a good question, and it's something that's been going through my mind as well. Is going to be like GMHI, and then then the laser. You know what? That brings up a good example here, because the reason I was poking around on BFT today is from the headline. So let's check out the headline. And this is the best way to go about the process. You're going to have to get in here and do a little digging. And this is going to be good, I guess, aftermarket activities is digging through a lot of these SPACs to see, okay, has this one went through the symbol change yet? So if we're looking at BFT, and these are different. Okay, there we go. So this is the one I was focusing on earlier. PaySafe. Okay, I saw a few headlines this morning. I forgot what financial publication I was looking at. Like PaySafe is going to go public. Like whatever, so many IPOs out there. But then I started looking through the news headlines for BFT today, and I'm like, oh, okay. So Foley, this is Foley. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one. Foley Acquisition Corp. So what do we have down here? Foley Acquisition, blank check acquisition firm's $9 billion PaySafe IPO. All right. So does that mean that BFT is going to do the acquisition and become PaySafe? I'm not sure. I'm going to have to keep my eye on it, though, because one day when BFT is not trading, then that the transition has been made. But obviously, if you were involved in it, you would know what the new symbol was going to be, much like GMHI and laser. So, I'm not sure exactly how long the SPAC train has been rolling. I definitely know it's been for many, 2, 3, 4 months or longer. Is it just getting started? Is it just leaving the station? Is there going to be plenty more of these to be had?
I think he means, like, can we identify them as just a shell company? Like, for instance, one of the ones Dan was in has been sitting there on a shelf for a year and a half before the acquisition took place. I don't know if that's the case. I really don't. It's all very new to me, too. I'm literally learning as Jamie speaks.
Right. And see, GMHI, which became Laser, it was pretty, pretty dead and thinly traded way back here. More than likely, when the chatter started coming out? Who knows? I don't know. And that's a very good question. And that's some research that I'm going to have to do is how do you find the ones that haven't done the conversion yet? If you want to get the most bang for your buck, potentially. Okay. Because, you got to keep in mind the overnight risk in these things, I'm sure is not going to be, it's not going to be like, oh, look, I got 2 or 3 last week and they all worked. There's going to be risks, right? Deals fall apart all the time. So just keep that in mind. But how do we find the ones that haven't converted yet? That's a good question. And that is something that I'm going to try to find the answer to as well.
I mean, I've watched Dan, pull some rabbits out of his hat the last few days with his laser and some other things. And I sat back and said, okay, well, I don't really understand this, so I'm not going to jump in and participate. It's just, I think prudent. That's the way I'm looking at it. But it's curious.
I'm just now getting exposed to it as well. But it's definitely there's something there, so, to be continued. And I see Sam saying there's no marble here. So let me just dump that top list back in there. Don't know why it wouldn't be in there, but I'll drop it in there one more time.
Maybe the scroll bar is hiding it.
It could be. Okay, so here is the marble block top list one more time. All right, it is in there. And that is about the end of my content today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Got about 5 minutes left here. So, this is usually the time when Scott would go through the ending phases. And I see Scott has made an appearance. Scott, are you able to communicate or are you just observing right now? If you don't say anything, I'll just assume that you're in observation mode, and that's fine and good. I'll do my best here to walk us out. So in closing here, ladies and gents, we do have a free ebook that you can download for free. And all you have to do is go to the address that you see down here at the bottom, trade-ideas.com/earnings. This is an ebook. I believe Dave May produced it or wrote most of the content in it about how to trade earnings, and it's free to download. If you like podcast, we have one of those as well. Been kicking out some pretty good ones as of late, getting some pretty good guests on the show. So just use your favorite podcast downloadable app, and you'll be able to find all the Trade Ideas archives and the new podcasts that come out. We got a promo code, Holidays. Will give you 15% off of your first month or 15% off of an annual subscription as well. So if you're going to be signing up as a new user, Holidays is the code to use. You can find Steve at Today Trader on Twitter. You can find me at QuantBot on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook. The number that you see here is typically reserved just for billing, but you can always email us at info@trade-ideas.com with any questions that you might have. And I want to thank everybody for popping in today. Had a pretty good crowd, so hope everybody has a good rest of the day. See you tomorrow. Steve, thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow as well.
Yes, James, you can go on our YouTube channel. We have our archives on YouTube. This one will be uploaded tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. It'll start processing, and we'll have this one added as well. But all of the 5 p.m. Eastern webinars are archived on our YouTube channel. All right, Steve, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for popping in. Happy trading, and good luck tomorrow. We'll see everybody on the flip side. Bye-bye.